Warning. The following is a spoiler-filled aftershow for the comic book Vanish. If you are not caught up on the issue we are discussing, please come back after picking up the comic and supporting its creative team. In the mistlands of Everkeep, a war was fought. A war which has now come here to our world. Magical beings walk amongst us. Are they here to save this world or destroy it? Our hosts have been following Vanish since its conception, and now we will be discussing each issue and filling you in on our thoughts and insider knowledge. Join us as we explore this new series from creators Ryan Stegman and Donnie Cates. Welcome to the Ravens of Everkeep!
Welcome everyone to the next episode of the Ravens of Everkeep, a Vanish Aftershow. Today we will be discussing issue 2. Some quick intros of our panel. We have Abigail Mendoza.
What's up?
We have Daniel.
Hello, everyone.
The Rogue Jedi Meech.
Salutations, gentlemen and gentlewomen.
And I'm Ryan Michael Toon. Let's start our show.
Well, I am very happy to be back recording episode 2 of the Ravens of Everkeep. First of all, thanks to everyone that watched the first episode. It has a lot of views on the channel, so we are very excited that you guys are excited for us to do this. So let's today, like Ryan mentioned, we'll be talking about issue 2. So let's take a look at the cover first, because my goodness. So here, I'm pulling up the cover. This cover is fantastic, and I gotta say, I don't always like the pencil version of the cover better, but this one's pretty fucking cool. You guys have any thoughts on the cover?
As KOC members, we got to watch that one get drawn live, and it was a joy to watch because it was just one of those things where I think he even shared the rough outline where it was like purples and blues. Each character was a different color, so Stegman didn't lose track. So we kind of knew it was going to be faces and stuff, but I mean, man, it went from cool to cooler to cooler to amazing. So.
Yeah, definitely. Just seeing all the detailing, seeing just the entire process from start to finish was just a phenomenal experience. And so much so, like, it's perhaps my favorite of the variant covers for issue 2. So much so I got like 2 whole copies of it just right over my shoulder, which is just let you know just how great it is.
Yeah, I just love how Ryan drew this cover, because you got Oliver with his back against and you'll see the faces of Baron Vanish, who you can see is the biggest face on there, because you could tell that his death is haunting Oliver. And then you got the 2 most important people to his world, his wife Eleanor and his best friend Deacon.
Yeah, very cool, especially because at the moment when we saw it being drawn, like, we didn't know what was going on, right? We were just seeing like all these characters on the page. But now we know what's going on, and Ryan's going to tell us a little bit about it. So Ryan, you want to kick off the summary of issue number 2? Now, once again, as we said on the intro, full spoilers for the full issue. So go read all this before we get into it. But Ryan, take it away.
Sure. Part 1 of our synopsis of issue 2. Many years ago, in September 2001, Headmaster Oren brought some students on a field trip to New York City to learn about the customs of ordinary human citizens. While magically cloaked, Oliver and Oren spot a plane about to crash into one of the buildings, prompting the latter to use his magic to create an illusion. Instead of a fiery disaster, the children see the plane transform into a series of flower petals, and they celebrate in joy. However, as we transition back to the present, Oliver cynically reflects that Oren made them watch the rest of the tragedy unfold afterwards to teach them a lesson about the evils of war.
Boy, I gotta tell you, that is a ballsy way to open your book. Going back to that time in history. It was crazy. That spread, the splash page with the plane and the petals and everybody celebrating. That moment kind of just like took me by surprise. I stared at it for a minute because I always kind of look at the art.
I think back in one of the streams, I think it was Donnie who said that he and Ryan were afraid that the 2 of them would get some flack for referencing 9/11.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely something that was It should be on their mind. I think anytime they reference any real issues and real life issues.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
one of the big things about this, like when I read it, right, was I was like, hold on, did they just stop 9/11 from happening? And then and like just that thought alone, I was like, hold on, so y'all just changed up all of the world's history just in a flash. And then I kept reading, I'm like, oh, so you just didn't let that happen. Okay, so now we don't have to worry about this future world and just how history just changed in politics and just all the hoopla that was going to happen there.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked when I saw it. I'll be honest. My first impulse when I read it was, did they send us the deleted pages? Like it was one of the first times I ever, because these are guys I'm used to seeing work at Marvel. And it's one of those things where I read a comic, because I usually read from the big two. I always, I'm like, wow, I can't believe they got away with this when they do something even a little controversial. So this is very controversial, and they did it. And I don't think there was anything wrong with the way they handled it. I think 9/11 is obviously a touchy subject. There are lots of touchy subjects, and I think you can either do it to reference it as a point in history, or you can kind of do it to write your own agenda using this as an excuse or a tool.
Yeah.
They didn't use it as a tool. They made it a moment in history that this professor thought his students could learn from. So
Yeah,
But,
it definitely serves the bigger story as opposed to just like a shock and all, right?
yeah.
yeah, but I was really curious as to why, because the whole point of this field trip to 9/11 was to teach them about the evils of war, but still questioning on why Oren had to sugarcoat the first explosion.
Yeah, that's, I think, writing. Sometimes as a writer, you just got to write to fix your creative limitations, since obviously they weren't going to show anything, and I think it was the way, like Meech said, it got him because he thought they were going to rewrite history. So, for the briefest of moments, it got some people. I certainly was surprised when it turned into petals, but even more surprised that Oliver says in the very next page, but then he let us see the second plane crash. I'm like, well, then why'd you even spare them the first plane? So anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm like, well, first of all, I think it's cool to see how powerful Orin is, because we didn't get to see a lot of that in issue 1, right? Which not only elevates him but also elevates Vanish, Baron Vanish, and his power, because now we're seeing like if Orin can do all this and he got taken out real quick, it kind of like it's a big wrestling thing of like putting a guy over, and this is just kind of how you do it, by building on things like that. So
And
I
then
think that was
also,
very interesting.
yeah, and then also on the other hand, you're also starting to see like some slight things where Oliver is kind of like critiquing Oren's like the way he's been taught and the way he's been raised, kind of like, all right, this man has screwed me over here. I was like, I don't know why in the world he would do this, and it's starting to like make us kind of somewhat doubt the Dumbledore figure a bit there.
Yeah, that's extreme Harry Potter right there.
It did remind me of Aang's mentor. Like Danny, you said we got to finally see him be cool through a flashback. That reminds me of Aang's mentor from the Avatar show, because like you knew his master must have been badass, but you only got to see it through flashbacks. So
Correct.
Wait, which mentor? Because he had a lot. Are you talking about Roku or Gyasto?
Gyasto,
Yes, though.
the
Okay.
his actual airbender monk friend. So
Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. I also want to, and I hate to pull it back up, but here's the plan again. I love the way Ryan's been doing faces on like this series. Like he's always been really good at it. But just the expressions on their faces, especially this last shot where we kind of focus in on just Oliver and his, a young Oliver before all this kind of bad stuff's happened to him. And I'll talk more about faces as we go through this issues, because it's something that I don't think I had noticed as much in some of other Ryan's work, especially because like when he was drawing Spider-Man's always wearing a mask, so like he can emote a little bit with the eyes and everything. Or like one of my favorite characters, Reader, he's also got his eyes covered, so I don't think I don't think I got to see as much of like facial expressions as we're seeing in this one, because in this one, like no one's really wearing a mask outside of the Prestige when they're out of their like Prestige form, right? So very fun. Like I always open up a book and always look at the art first before I start reading, and sometimes I get in trouble that way because I kind of get lost in the comic. So it's always good to go back and reread it. And rereading it for this, these are some of the things I'm kind of noticing and going through all the dialogue. So
That's a good
um,
face. It's very expressive.
yeah,
Yeah.
what's the word I was looking for? Contempt, not contempt. Anyway, complete. Anyway, I lost the word.
all good. All right. Any other thoughts on this part? Because we've only hit the first 4 pages of this insane issue number 2, but we can definitely keep trucking along.
I'm ready for part 2 of the synopsis if you guys are.
Take it away,
Let's
Ron.
Yep.
go.
All right. Magically cleaning himself off with a glamour spell, Oliver attends a magic show headlined by his childhood best friend Dustin, now going by the name of Deacon Dust. Deacon berates Oliver for fighting Balin Constance, dismissing his claims that the superhero team The Prestige are really the Hollow in disguise. The magician elaborates that the human world has always had superheroes who were exiles from Everkeep, questioning why exposing these ones is so important. Because they don't get to just walk away, Oliver responds with conviction.
Oof. A quick poll for everyone. Uh, is Deacon Dust one of the coolest characters you've seen on a page?
Hells yeah.
'Cause yes,
Yes.
it's so good.
He certainly is cooler than any of the actual goth magicians that are out there. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I love the image of him kind of breaking the chains. Obviously, there's a lot of chain imagery all throughout this book because kids loves chains and we love chains. It also kind of reminds me of that very famous, I believe, it's Neil Adams cover of
Yes,
Superman breaking
sir.
the chains. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I actually
so
have the homage Neil did. He did a Hulk variant for
yeah,
Marvel Now's
yes,
Hulk, where he had the Hulk busting out. So
yeah.
yeah, it's
So
great.
I love the conversation and I love the relationship between Deacon. Um, but I really like this whole concept of the glamour. I think it's really fun, especially when Oliver kind of suits up to go to this fancy theater, right? Very reminiscent of a John Wick aesthetic,
Yeah.
especially because of the long hair. Yeah, I'm really enjoying just all the magic and the aspects of it.
It feels like a Harry Potter fix when at New York, Donnie was very vocal about all the things he wished he could change about Harry Potter. And this just feels like one of those things. Like, if you were a wizard and you had magic, like, you wouldn't be doing laundry. You would just be like, boom, new outfit. So it feels like just one of those things that or maybe it was Ryan's idea because it's a lot cooler to magically change outfits than have our characters have to re-suit up and do other things. But whoever came up with it, I agree. I like the glamour costume changes.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I also like one of the things I also like about just the glamour change, at least with Oliver, was how even though he was still in that full suit and tie, you could kind of still feel the evocation of his like hero costume, if you will, with the red in the shirt, and then of course the black being obvious because black is best. Black is best color. But essentially, like another thing I really also loved about this is just the character of Deacon Frost. Just Deacon Dust. Oh my goodness, I would
Yeah,
reference Blade.
completely different
Come
you
property.
on,
got you
man.
got
That was bound to happen. That was
Nick
bound to
has
happen.
Blade
The
in the
names are
brain, and
similar.
I don't
Oh my,
blame you.
and just forgive me, I actually did watch Blade like a week ago, so so it was just there. I knew it was gonna happen eventually. But yeah, Deacon Dust, like he seemed like just such a chill, relaxed, cool guy, and but just kept it real the whole time, and it very realistic for a person who lived in that time frame as well.
Yeah, I really loved how yeah, like first of all, can we say like Deacon Dustin, he's kind of hot. Like
I mean,
objectively
yeah,
speaking.
objectively, yeah.
Objectively.
Like But yeah, he's using his magic powers because first of all, like everyone else was just living ordinary lives once they I don't know graduated from the academy. But Dustin here, he just decides to use his powers for personal gain, just to make a profit off of it, and then just become a celebrity essentially, like in the good way, like not uh like just have your name attached to the academy. He just wants to be his own person, but he's using his ties to the academy just to make a name for himself.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that feels like realistic. Like I think eventually, well, at least one of the magic wielders will be like, I just want to make some money and live comfortably. Like use that power and be a celebrity. And what better way to like pretend to be or I guess pretend to not be a magician by being a magician in the real world.
I think more accurately here, he's selling himself as an illusionist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to get the magic community on me for that. So very cool.
But I think yeah, with going back to the glamour thing, yeah, like costume change really cool. I think the only thing that's missing is spinning around. If any of you get that reference.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I mean,
A lot of people objected to He-Man's latest transformation in the Netflix one because they said it was far too Sailor Moony, which I'm on the fence about because there was a lot of sparkling and glitter for a He-Man transformation. But anyway.
I was
So-
talking about Linda Carter's Wonder Woman. If any
Oh,
of you
that
understand
spinning
it.
transformation. Then I guess I didn't pick up what you were laying down. My bad. I do now,
Yeah.
and yes.
I mean, Wonder Woman is a magical girl, so it makes sense that they would have a similar transformation.
Speaking of heroes, like let's talk about just that little bombshell line that Deacon said, like, "Hey, human world always had heroes ever since the Golden War." Now,
That's true.
I'm just here like,
Yeah.
okay, what other superheroes are we referring to? Is there going to be like, is this kind of more foreshadowing? Like, hey, we're about to see more of these heroes and like see like what allegiances they lie, and then what is the Golden War? Like
'Cause there's
this
supposed
one?
to be a planned spin-off called Vanish the Golden War, helmed by Kenny Porter and Ryan Lee.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hope that we not only get that very soon, which would make sense maybe after issue 8, when they take another break. Maybe that's something that can be come in. I don't know. We can definitely talk about that. Maybe we can reach out to the creators and see if they. I follow Kenny and Kenny follows me back on Twitter, so I'll hit him up, see if he wants to spill any beans on that. But yeah, the world building on this is very subtle but very effective, which is something that I'm also really enjoying about this book. There's all these little seeds that, whether they come to fruition or not, I think they're still fun for us to kind of think about and try to come up with theories and stuff. And as we kind of read forward, we can talk more about that.
Agreed.
Cool.
Mhm.
Any more thoughts on the second part? Because the next part, I think it's about to get heavy. So if not, Ryan Michael, please take it away.
Okay, part 3 of our issue 2 synopsis. Oliver continues to plead that his visions were real, but is stopped when his friend notices Eleanor's signet ring on his finger. Deacon chastises Oliver, leaving Eleanor unprotected and declaring a war against powerful people before proclaiming he will not join the fight. Saddened after hearing Deacon's refusal, Oliver laments that his friend has everything while he has nothing, wondering if killing Vanish was the only good thing in his life. A very annoyed Deacon retorts by telling Oliver that he in fact does have everything, a loving wife to go home to, and tells him to do so.
That's pretty heavy. That conversation on the roof. I was like, especially when your best friend calls you out on your bullshit. I think that's when you know that something needs to change.
Yeah.
Yep. But I did agree that Dustin did have a point. Oliver complaining that he has nothing, bro. Like you got a wife, Deacon doesn't.
Now,
Yeah.
does anyone sense a little bit of a love triangle jealousy there?
I mean, I could definitely see it. It's hard without knowing more of their relationship. Hopefully, that's something with whether we go back in flashbacks or something else. I think that's something to be explored because you have they have a real bond too, right? Like all three of them. So who knows how this how being magic wielders affects that bond too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oliver called Dustin the third uh yeah, the third in their ragtag little crew or something like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm. And
I
then
could see
also,
them. He seemed very jealous, either of just the fact that Oliver has a loved one in his life, or that he has Eleanor and Deacon doesn't. So
I mean, when you look at the comment panel when he says that, like he is extremely pissed.
yeah,
So that could be a true indication, like, hey, you have something I don't, sir. So just go and treasure that. And I think like if you have a best friend like that, to where it's like they call you out on everything, and it's like, hey, bro, get it together. Like, think that's a solid friend for life, though.
Yep. Now, I have a quick question about this conversation, and even really just the way Oliver approaches. So maybe you guys have some insight. If not, anybody watching, please let us know in the comments. Why? I understand why Oliver has the glamour on when he goes into the theater, but why do you guys think he still has it on when they're by themselves in the roof? Like, like, what do you think he feels the need to like still hide kind of his messed up phase?
Yeah, I
if
think that's the only reason why.
if you're trying to convince your friend that you're doing the right thing, you don't want to look like you just got your ass kicked.
Mm, yeah, that's
So
true.
Yeah. And then also don't forget he probably has his cloak on under there as well. So like you remove that, then he look like he can be like a total lunatic.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it makes sense in public, but like when they're up in the roof by themselves, like, what's his motivation to still having that? Like, maybe he doesn't want to let on as to how far he's already gone down the rabbit hole of like trying to go back. Um, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that even though they're so close, he would still kind of choose to hide that part of like what he's doing from him.
I think by not showing the extent of his injuries, I think it's supposed to show that, yeah, he's capable on his own, but he also wants another soldier to bring into the war. Like he's
Mhm.
just trying to convince Dustin to be on his side.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Like, don't show weakness.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I feel like if he saw him all kind of beat up, as my best friend, I would expect you to be like, all right, I guess I got to help you out because look, otherwise you kind of get into some shit by yourself. So yeah, they have a very interesting relationship, and this like that conversation is probably one of my favorite things, as far as just like character development on their relationship. But there's definitely more that happens, and even in this issue, so we can definitely move forward and discuss some more of that stuff.
all right. So on to part 4 of our synopsis of issue 2. On the way home, Oliver heads to the library where he is greeted by a worrisome Eleanor asking him to stop his excuses and lies. She even sees past his glamour and demands him to remove it. Oliver complies, revealing his face covered in cuts and bruises. Eleanor asks who did this to him. He lies that he tried to stop a mugging after coming home from the bar. However, she becomes suspicious when he makes a passing remark and becomes outraged upon finding out that he used magic. Oliver asks what he was supposed to do, and Eleanor argues that he could have called the police like everyone else because using magic will threaten everything they've built. After demanding her ring back, Eleanor asks Oliver, "Are we safe?" Ooh.
That's strong.
Yeah.
That that I'm telling you, this issue had some of the most in-depth conversations. It wasn't super action-packed like the first one, which I think it's smart, right? You want to get us hooked on like real cool stuff, and then start rolling out some of the story.
It felt like a 1-2 punch where issue 1 made you like their look, it made you like the vibe of the comic, the action, it gave you the brutal thing of what to expect, and then this one gave you, now that you care, this one gives you all the filler of who are these people, what are their connections, why should we care about them. So
Yeah.
I really liked it as a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I really did appreciate how this issue was just sort of a breather because, yeah, like you mentioned, in issue one, it was practically that you were hit with a train because you have all of this being bombarded at you. So yeah, the fact that this is some relief, we get to see some character development. What's everybody's motives? What is everyone personality wise like?
Yeah.
Yep, very agreed, very agreed. And just another thing here is that like I just like how Oliver he was just able to just completely be well, not completely be open with Eleanor, but like enough to where it's like, hey, I'm gonna remove my charm for you, whereas he doesn't do it for Deacon. I think like
Right.
yeah, it's a strong testament for her character. It's like, hey, and she just doesn't beat around the bush at all. She just goes directly at the source, which just lets you know, like, well, we knew from issue 1 that she was a strong character as a child or a teenager. It only rightfully makes sense that she would be this strong, especially as an adult.
Yeah, for sure. And to go back to what we were talking about, a minute ago, I don't know if it's maybe that uh Deacon didn't see the charm, and then Eleanor's like she's so much more capable that she's like, I can see through your deception, right? Or like maybe she just knows Oliver that much better. I don't know. That's kind of why I brought it up, because it's really interesting how in back-to-back kind of conversations their approach to somebody who Oliver cares for is very different, and also somebody that with people that care about him.
And that this is also a reference that, people shouldn't lie to their wives because they can see through everything.
That just seems like good advice overall. Yeah.
I am wondering what's the shell game, the shuffle move of the rings, because we don't know that Oliver uses her signet ring to fight. Then he takes Balin's, then he gives hers back. So I guess moving forward, the next week time we see Oliver fighting, he's fighting with Balin's ring, or he has his own. I'm not quite sure. Moving forward, I don't, I didn't want to read ahead as we're doing this revisiting. I wanted to go on this journey with our audience. Where is Oliver's ring? I think that's a bit of a mystery as of issue 2. So
I just think he collects the rings just to steal some of their power.
he collects the rings to use their power, but it says in the first issue they're trained to use these rings as their magical wands.
Hmm.
So if he uses the power going forward, I would have to think he's using at least, even though the power's in him, it's still got to be channeled through something. Maybe I guess if I'm assuming the lore of this world, it seems like it would still have to be channeled through something. So I'm assuming that moving forward he uses Balin's ring again. Maybe he does have his own. I don't know. But
Yeah, because
just
he
through
wouldn't.
issue 1 and 2,
He
there's a
wouldn't
lot
take.
of
He wouldn't
mystery.
take her ring, right? He wouldn't take her ring and take her power. I think it was maybe something that he needed to do at the time, but even I mean, even Deacon called him out on it. Like, you left her unprotected now. So like, what does that? What does that mean? How does the shuffling of the rings kind of work around? That's
Yeah.
pretty interesting too. Yeah.
It seems like if he had one of his own, he wouldn't have taken hers. So what happened to
Mhm.
Oliver's ring is the big
Or
question.
not enough juice.
Yeah, it could be
Yeah.
that or like maybe he knows the enemies that he faces, like maybe his ring is not enough, so he needed hers.
We still don't know why he was left. For all we know, after he broke the rules of the Dark Arcana, they took
Yeah.
his ring and kicked him the fuck out. So
Yeah. That's maybe part of the consequence of using an object from our world. Well, our world.
The
yeah.
citizenry.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we got one more, a few more pages to go through. So let's go over that. We'll go over the rest of the issue, see if we got to talk more about stuff, and move on to our next segment. But Ryan, please take it away.
Sure. Our finale of the issue 2 synopsis. At an unknown location, the Prestige are holding a meeting where Battle Rocket exclaims that they are fucked. The leader, Halcyon, attempts to calm him by reminding his teammate that they've always known that there were magical exiles in this human world. No one should be able to threaten them or their secrets. Battle Rocket remarks that this magic user had a glowing sigil and angrily removes his glamour, shocking Halcyon. Balin reveals his bleeding face with the word hollow carved onto his forehead, shouting, "Oliver Harrison is back, and he knows!" Bloody, bloody, bloody.
That's a sick page.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So this is our introduction really to the rest of the Prestige. And boy, I'm telling you, I don't know. I think one of the questions I would like to eventually ask the creative team, how much of this, like, as part, I like to see the script. Hopefully, in the trade paperback, we'll get a little bit of the script. I want to see maybe character descriptions. Like, is this all Ryan's design? Because the characters, they look pretty cool. So I would like to know, like, what was their input of, like, going back and forth with the looks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
and just
know
looking
there
at
was definitely the conversation about the twins, but we can save that for another day.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's. I want to know about the beast looking dude in a suit of armor. I don't know
Furry
why.
Hulk.
Furry Hulk. I
Pearl.
love Furry Hulk but he's got like, the pauldings and the helmet, and I don't know.
Wait,
It's
it's
it's an
Furry Hulk a
intriguing
he?
outfit. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit. I don't know if you guys, and this is way back in the New 52, but um, there was a Joker story where he kind of takes over the Justice League and in the Capullo Snyder run, and Batman puts on like this battle suit to try to take down the Justice League. It gave me like, as soon as I saw that design, I was like, obviously there's no fur on the. This is a lot different, but just that overall thing at the top, like I thought that was very. Um, I don't know. It just gave me a lot of vibes of that. Of like, you want to make sure that you want to portray that this dude is a monster and that armor is like impenetrable or something like that.
Yeah. And yeah, Furry Hulk, or like I think we can say like their real name is Battery, but anyway, that's another carryover from the creative sessions of Bad Kids.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, we can talk about that in a minute and some of the behind the scenes stuff. You guys can fill me in on that because I don't think I'm aware of any of that stuff. Um, but let's talk about also just the reveal when Battle Rocket takes off the glamour. And once again, like I said, I love the glamour. I think it's one of the more like, it's such a cool just tool, writing tool for like the artist to really kind of go wherever they want to go, right? Because then Donnie and Ryan can just like, well, I want to draw this. Well, I mean, it's okay. I'll put on some glamour on the character or whatever. Or if you want to surprise someone, and then you spring this on them after removing the glamour, like that is used to great effect.
I like the way Ryan draws the magical shimmer of the glamour going on and off. It looks like almost like magical hacking. Like it's
Yeah.
like magical yet digital at the same time. So I just really enjoy it. It separates that this is the Vanish brand of magic immediately. I've never seen magic where it looks so digitized, but I really like it.
Yeah, it almost it's very reminiscent of Mission Impossible too. Like, when they take off the mat. Well,
Yeah,
the more recent Mission Impossibles where it's a little more tech.
yeah, I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, yeah.
And
It
we
definitely
we
seems
don't
to be. It
we
seems to be
don't
the Stegman
yeah.
version of the shimmer, whatever you want to call it, when the light starts refracting and you can tell it's doing its thing or it's going on or going off. But yeah, I like it a lot.
And a lot of that also credit to Sonia, just like on the coloring of that, because I think doing light in a paper medium like this, like, it's one of the more difficult things. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm not a colorist. But like, especially with the contrast with the blood, like I think Sonia does. She's just doing such a fantastic job of like making sure that all the magic looks super cool when it's being done on the page.
100% agree. Her colors just
Mhm.
pop
Hmm.
when
Mhm.
they need to pop, and yeah, it light is a hard thing to do because you got to get the she's not going for just white. She wants it
Yep.
to have a color to it, but there's so much white in there to have it glow that yeah, no, she's a master of her craft. It's really good.
It's phenomenal, just phenomenal work, especially in terms of art. Like, I just want to say, like, hey, they were on their A game for each issue, and it seems like it just keeps on increasing for each issue as well.
Yeah.
I don't know you in the back in the 90s there was always that huge difference between like the TV show and
Mhm.
then like the movie of the TV show. Like there was just that jump in art where you're like,
Yeah,
oh my god, the characters have shading now. Oh my god, the characters have depth and like, oh look how much better the tracing and the lines are. something about this final shot just looks like that to me. It just looks like this is comic book art taken to the movie level, where a normal comic book panel is fast and sloppy because it has to be, but this is like, wow, he obviously spent so much time making it look a step above your average comic page.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see a lot of stuff of like how far in advance all this stuff is being done so that they can deliver quality work like that. And that's probably a whole other conversation of like, rushing creators to turn in the work for monthly items as opposed to create our own books like this, where they have their own time. They got their own timelines and stuff like that. So
it's just funny. We've been talking about the glamour so much, and as I was looking at these last 2 pages, Battle Rocket. Not only is the glamour, obviously he's Battle Rocket in one scene and he's Balin in the other scene, but like Battle Rocket doesn't look as exhausted. It's like also like rejuvenated his look, where he's like, I'm annoyed, and he's smoking that cigarette. But when he takes it off, he's fucking drained, man. He's like, he kicked my ass. Like it's not only like the look, but the whole vibe of the guy, his whole persona changed when he dropped the glamour.
Well, I think he's supposed to pass as a 10-year-old ish. So
Yeah.
you
don't wanna-
10-year-old.
You don't want to be tired as a 10-year-old.
Yeah,
A 10-year-old with let's see, an ashtray with I want to say like over 10 cigarettes in it.
Yeah,
So
because 10-year-old tired looks a bit different from 827-year-old tired.
I guess so.
One last thing I wanted to point out here before we kind of go back and talk about everything else. One of these members, we don't really even, as of this point, we don't even get a good look at them.
The hooded
right?
one.
The hooded,
right? We just see, I think everyone else is pretty much like out in the open, but there's one member of the Prestige or the Hollow or whatever you want to call them that, as of now, what's going on? What's the deal there, right? So I love that. Like I said, I think they're dropping all these little things in place, so to start planting seeds of like get people's minds working, right? And I think as we read these when they come out, people that are on the server, we have that spoiler channel to kind of talk about this and theorize. And I just love when it's released, like how just that chat fills up with like, here's all the things we noticed. So that makes me go, like, I read it, I go to the chat, and then I go back and read it again after having read all of like everyone's comments of like all the things I missed.
Yeah, but just to note, the hooded shadow person's name is Armory.
Yeah,
doesn't look like they're wearing armor, despite their name being Armory.
It gives me the same manga vibes that Stegman said were the inspiration for Battle Rocket. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Hellsing. Hellsing. I mean, if you want to talk shadowy figures in the corner with glasses. You talk Hellsing.
Yeah.
So I'm getting strong commander vibes from the secret organization.
Wait.
I get
that. Yep. Maybe by Armory, like they may have some like guns or anything like that under whatever the hood is.
Yeah, it could be a pocket dimension hood where it's like, I think Doctor Who, am I referencing that right? Where they just pull stuff out of their jackets.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next few segments. Now, I don't think we have any. Well, I guess our behind the scenes are kind of mixed in with the fan perspective and also some of the KLC axis. So we're gonna skip over to fan perspective where we talk about. Now, Ryan, you made a note here. You want to go over that fan perspective, and we already kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's get into some of those details.
Yeah, just being able to watch the cover come to life was really cool, and then being able to read the comic, which it just felt like such a cool tease because you got to know the faces a little bit. You wanted to find out more about these characters. It just enhanced what, like, I guess I said that 1-2 punch already of meeting everyone in issue 1 and then getting to know them in issue 2. It kind of just built on that where they showed so many faces and it was just really well done. It was an intriguing cover. And also, again, like I said, with that whole just taking the art to the next level, movie quality, It's a great cover. It's just flat out a great cover. Stegman killed it as usual.
Yeah.
So
And I'll try to add a link in the notes or the description of that stream so you guys can go back and try to take a look. I'll have to go back and look through their playlist.
I found it earlier, so yeah, it won't be hard for me to send it to you.
Okay.
We'll get that to you guys.
Excellent. I also had one thing here. This is normally it takes 3 issues for me to like realize if I'm gonna enjoy a comic book or not. But this issue for me, like Ryan mentioned, that 1-2 punch. This is where it kind of crystallized of like, oh, this book is just gonna throw anything at the audience, right? We have all the stuff from issue 1, all the misdirects, the pulling of the bang moment that we talked about in the first episode. And here we open up with that giant moment in history and how things maybe changed, but they didn't really. And then we have all these conversations and then the kind of the prestige at the end. Like these 2 episodes, these 2 issues kind of showed you the high level view of the world of this comic book. And I was super intrigued by everything.
Yeah, I want to like piggyback off that. Is just if this were basically like adapted into a series, I think like what like issue 1 and issue 2 could literally just be like a 1-hour episode that could that really just gets you into the world, really allows you to really feel for the characters, really get you to relate with them. And I think like that's what really draws many people in besides the creative team and the art obviously, but but I mean obviously the art is just top notch. I will always sing the praises of it, but yeah, I think like just the story and just the storytelling and the small tidbits of world building that are sprinkled throughout in like tiny segments, similar to how Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope did. It just really just like lets you know like, all right, here's some breadcrumbs for you to try to peck at to figure out, all right, what's about to happen in these next 10 issues, these next however so long Vanish goes.
Yep. Cool. All right, let's move on to some of our Easter eggs and some themes and thoughts that we have. So we'll just kind of go in order here. So jump in as we talk about them. We'll start with Ryan.
When we flash back to 2001 New York City, there's a cab number 12985. So I did a small amount of research. It's a zip code in New York. There was a government act. There was all kinds of, we were wondering, is it January 29th, 1985? Is it December 9th, 1985? So we've done some research and can't really find anything. So we might even ask the creators soon and see what's the meaning. But if anyone, if that's a comic book that we are ashamed that we forgot was published on that day, if any of our listeners or Vanish fans know, let us know if you know the hidden meaning of 12985. Just because it's kind of prominent, artists don't have to draw things, so if they choose to draw it, I usually assume it's an Easter egg of some kind.
Because that's a very specific number.
We've been searching for ages trying to figure out what in the world is this a reference to.
Yeah, it's not as easy as 42.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's not as easy as figuring out Oliver and Harrison or any of that stuff. Cool. What else we have?
Well, I just love smoking is not cool. Smoking is bad for you. But when Oliver is smoking on page 6 and he's smoking like inside his cowl. So the smoke billows out of his cowl with the smoke on the sides, the magic eye lasers, the hair, the cloak, the rooftop. I just freaking love that one panel on page 6. I just think it's so cool. Again, that movie level. It does not look like a normal comic page. There's something extra. The detail, the shading, the colors, it all just comes together to really pop off that page. The red under the black cloak it looks so good. And again, I guess quickly to merge back to what you guys were talking about with the glamour and the suits, it is red, black, and white. When he does the other suit, it's red, black, and white. that reminds me of, again, these guys, Venom. Venom used to be able to take the symbiote and put on a jacket that was
Mhm.
looking like just like Meech's. Like,
Yes.
no matter what Venom and Eddie wore, it always looked kind of like the Venom suit. So I feel
Yeah.
like that's a nice nod to their Venom roots, that the glamour, Oliver's glamour, kind of reminds me of Eddie Brock back in the day.
And if you read this in the trade, once you got anybody that's going to read it in trade, these pages we'll have the last page in issue 1 of Oliver standing on top of the roof. Then we'll have a few pages of him remembering September 2001, and then we'll get to this page. So like it's all really it's gonna flow really nicely too. I hope they don't break it up with chat with like those pages. I know they might have to sometimes because they need to have certain pages on certain side of the book. So that'll be interesting to read once the trade is out. I do want to go. I mean, I'm sure we're all buying the trade because that's just
Yeah.
who we are as comic readers, even if we have multiple copies of all these issues. But I think that's just I don't know how far these guys have planned ahead on like all this stuff being collected, but I think all those little creator touches are really cool. All right, let's go on to the next thing.
Yeah, I obviously Deacon Dust, like I said, is already like an homage, a reference, a parody of goth magicians like Chris Angel, and that kind of over dramatic illusionist art. But the one thing we do have to know about Deacon Dust, because he's got that whole shirtless rocker vibe, is we see he's got the same sigil as Oliver. The sigil of, and I'm going to say this correctly, going all the way back to issue 1, where Oliver talks about his past a little bit in the Dark Arcana. It is the sigil of the ancient house of the Raven of the Hunt. So when Vanish first attacked, apparently the first casualties were Oliver's hometown, and apparently Deacon is also from that hometown. It kind of gave me the impression that
Yeah.
there might be multiple backgrounds, even though they all have similar cloaks. Maybe we didn't see some of the other students, and other students actually had different sigils.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it reminds us that not only were they from the same school, they're from the same town. So
Yeah, at the beginning, yeah, Oliver described Dustin as his little orphan brother growing up.
Yep.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just again, like you guys were saying, the world building, the information, a good director will say, don't spoon feed your audience the information, just put the information in the frame. And I feel like that was the comic book version of putting the information in the frame. Just by drawing that tattoo, if you're really paying attention, you know that these guys' ties run deep. So
Yes.
I really like that part.
Very cool. All right, Abigail, I think yours is up next.
Yeah, I put in this was a really neat, like when Oliver stops in front of the theater to go see that Dustin is headlining as Deacon Dust. The name of the theater is Mayer, so I took that to interpret. Does that mean JP Mayer, the inker?
Shout out,
Oh
shout out,
yes.
JP.
Hey.
Hell yeah.
I hope so. I mean, JP's doing amazing work on this, so like I would be very well deserve to sneak a little Easter egg. And just the way Ryan's mind works, like he's a little cheeky sometimes like that. So I can definitely see this being like, I'm just gonna do it without any like planning or anything. Like this is just for you, JP. So
But
um,
But yeah,
very
it's
cool.
not uncommon to sneak creators' names into panels. I think the most recent thing I could think of is back in Sinister War. I think Mark Bagley snuck in his own name in one of the tombstones.
Yeah, he did. He did. I remember that one too.
That seems like bad luck.
I love seeing that of like whenever there's like a street sign or something like that, or like a restaurant or a pizza joint. Especially there's a lot of that stuff in Marvel because a lot of stuff takes place in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I love looking for that too. Cool. Mitch, you got a couple things here.
Oh yeah. So firstly, it is about our boy Halcyon. Of course, like one of the things you can clearly notice is that besides he looks to be the Superman archetype, he has the upside down eye on his costume, which obviously is a reference to the Image Comics logo. But one thing I did also interpret it as is that it also could be a reference to Invincible. You know how Invincible's costume
Yeah.
basically is an eye, but
Mhm.
it's where it's like regular. So like his head is the
The dot.
dot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in Halcyon's case, it's the reverse. So that makes it think like, okay, well, I don't know if we're gonna talk about it, but like, hey, is he gonna be like the true main villain of the entire saga, or is it like a complete reverse of like Mark's story that we're gonna see with Halcyon? Just something to keep in mind.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I like that. I didn't even pay attention to that till I was reading your notes. I was like, no way. Like,
Which is a very fun Easter egg when you consider that the 1 in 10 variant was drawn by Ryan Otley of
Otley,
Invincible.
I know.
Otley.
yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that's cool.
All right. And what else, Meech?
And then my last one is actually probably one of my favorite in terms of narrative devices, in which at the end of Eleanor's conversation with Oliver, she basically asks him like, "Hey, are you safe?" But then it's the next page. It smash cuts to Battle Rocket replying, well, saying like, "We're fucked," as if like Battle Rocket is replying to Eleanor's statement to essentially imply like, hey, either Oliver and Balin both have the same response or as a narrative device, or could just be like, hey, yeah, this story is about to get fucked in so many ways in these next few issues. You guys are not ready.
Yep. Yeah, I like that a
Yeah.
lot too. I'm glad you pointed it out here.
It's a very cool cinematic trick where you cut to the next scene and the character answers, somehow answers the last scene's questions. I know they do it in Archer all the time.
It's a very
So,
Austin Powers.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I was trying to think of which movie scene
Yeah,
that was.
Austin Powers. They overdid it, if anything.
Yeah.
But it was really funny. Um, cool. I think we've covered up a lot of stuff. We had some trivia and fun facts that we kind of sprinkled out throughout the issue. But is there any of those that we still want to touch on?
I guess the one other thought, I don't remember writing it down, but I just, when we cut to the bad guy's hideout, I just love that it was built into the side of the cliff. We don't know where it is. It gives me very strong James Bond vibes of the secret villain hideout built into the side of a mysterious mountain. So, and at the same time, when it looks kind of like a boardroom, then it kind of gives me the boys vibes of the Super Sevens hangout. So I just love it. It says superheroes and villains at the same time. It sells exactly what they're trying to sell. So I just really like that panel.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to touch on, we didn't really talk much about it because I think a lot of us know that when the lettering is done well, it goes unnoticed. But I do want to shout out John J. Hill. Like, I love this, ladies and gentlemen, like how big and
Got some
bombastic it
flair.
is. Like, it's very different. I think that's really cool. And I believe, I don't know if, I don't think Ryan, so Ryan drew this one in. Anytime we see like letter, which is a really interesting thing that we asked on the Discord. Anytime you see like a big sound effect, that's most likely Ryan drawing it into the design. Whereas some of the things, like some of the smaller sound effects, I think those are from John putting them in here. So it's really cool that we get to see some of those unfinished pages or unlettered pages, because then we kind of see all that behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, John's, like I said, he's doing such a fantastic job that it just kind of flies under the radar of the comic. So that's all I had as well, and that kind of brings us to the end of issue number 2 of Vanish. We're gonna truck along, but this was just this 1-2 punch. They really connected hard, and I think at this point, like, everyone that's reading this book should know if this book is for them or not. Does anybody have any closing thoughts before we start signing off?
I loved it. I think it's hard to come off an issue as crazy as number 1 was. So I like the breather. There might be some adrenaline junkies out there. They're like, no, just action, action, action. But I liked the breather. Again, I'm just going to keep comparing this because it feels like they wrote this more like a movie or a TV show than a comic book. And it just feels like when you watch Avengers, Loki fucks up the Avengers compound. The next scene is very calm. It's very chill. I think it's Tony in the park talking
Yeah.
with Pepper. So like
Mhm.
literally this is kind of like him talking to Pepper. So we get this big opening scene, and then the next chapter is calm down. Let's get to know these people. Let's flesh out the world. So I it was great.
Cool. Abigail, Mitch, you guys have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing what Ryan Michael said. How I did appreciate this as a breather with like after dealing with the craziness of issue 1, because you don't want to constantly like just I'm gonna go with my metaphor again of uh getting hit by a train. You don't want to do that twice in a row.
I don't even
That
want to do that once.
I'm not saying.
well, you don't even want to be hit by a train once.
Yeah.
But but that's besides the point. I really like that this is a nice breeder because
Yeah.
I'm gonna reiterate that you get to know everybody without being all ragey and stuff.
Even Wile E. Coyote needs a break before the next anvil hits him on the head.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, and I think like for me, probably the best, like yours analogy was really great. Mine's like, all right, we started off at a 10, and if we kept going, like kept at that same pace and kept going at 10s and 11s, eventually we're gonna get so like accustomed to it that the thermostat would not work if we toned it down at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not speaking of personally. My thermostat is fine for right now. but yeah, it's like if you keep it on full blast the entire time, it eventually, like whenever you do get those moments, it won't land as hard. So I feel
Mhm.
like having it as early as we did with issue 2 was just a nice little, all right, woosah, and be able to like, all right, so now we are recharged, we are refreshed, and now let's get back into more insanity.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very
as we
cool.
know, since we're doing a catch up, it's just a slight decrescendo before we start revving right back up
Yeah,
again soon. So
it's like
Mhm.
we now return to your regularly scheduled program.
Yes.
Bam, bam.
Well, I am very excited to revisit issue 3 for the next episode. So let's go around. Do you guys have any plugs or anything coming up that you want people to be aware of? I'll start you off with Ryan Michael. Do you have anything you're working on you want to plug?
I recorded an episode with a friend, editing it now, and I have another episode of my new show, Forged by Fandom, where I'm just going to talk to my super creative friends, and we're going to talk about how being a fan of the things that inspire them have really enriched their lives and helped it. So I just love everything. I've had to polymath or something. I had to look it up because I just love everything. So I don't want to pick one specific topic. I want to talk about everything. So that's what we're gonna do on my show. So at Ryan Michael Toon, Twitter, YouTube, and episodes rolling out soon.
Great. Yeah, you can find all that stuff in the description for everyone. Abigail, what are you working on?
Well, we just recently released three new episodes of Ghost Spider Groupies. At the beginning of the month, we covered Spider Gwen Shadow Clones #1. Just last week, we released Dan Slott and Mark Bagley's Spider Man #6 episode. But the week before that, we recently had our good friends, the Supple Boys, on for our The Night Gwen Stacy Died 50th episode. So
Ooh,
give all of that at a listen. So, but you can find me at Abigail K Mendoza on Twitter, and Ghost Spider Groupies. You can follow us at GS Groupies.
great. Yeah, links will be in the description for that. Meech, what are you working on?
Oh man, so of course in the Blurred City podcast, we did our movie review of Creed 3. We did our movie review of Shazam Fury of the Gods. And then we just finished today, actually, our review of John Wick Chapter 4.
Ooh,
So
ooh,
so 3 movie reviews back to back. So if you want to figure out like, hey, should we watch this movie? Go ahead and check those out on the Blurred City podcast on all your podcasting platforms, on Instagram and Twitter. And then on my personal TikTok page, The Road to Jedi 21, I'm actually like getting into more practicing because I actually have a Jedi performance at Comic Palooza in 2 months. So So you'll be able to see like the progression of like how ready I'm gonna be by the time that day rolls forward.
Hey, that's what's up. All right, well, you can find me at Echo Spider and Next Issue Podcast on this channel. We've also added the Ravens of Everkeep to the YouTube podcast platform. I'm not sure entirely how that works, but there's like a YouTube podcast page now where this should be on as well. It's a whole thing, but you can find it on there. It's really, hopefully it helps us find a larger audience too that are looking for very, very specific content about Vanish. uh, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to our next episode, and some more stuff that we have in the works for the future. Maybe have some guests on. We'll see. I know Abigail can get us the hookup. I think now, get us some big guests that now that she's had them on her show.
I think all you have to do is just ask, and if it
Yeah,
worked out
yeah.
schedule wise, then yeah.
The Summer Boys are cool. Well,
We
great.
showed the creators and they didn't sue us. In fact, they seem to like the show, so that's a good thing.
That's the
Yeah.
most exciting part. I hope that they send this out to like JP and Sonia because they're not as active on social media. So maybe they haven't seen it, but hopefully the team sends out the link so they can check it out. Because I think the reason we do this is because we love the creators and their work, and we want them to know how much we enjoy it. So yeah, thanks everybody that's watching. Make sure to, if you have any questions, comments, answers to some of our theories, leave those down in the comments, or you can reach out to us at on Twitter at Vanish Aftershow, where you can find all this stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time,
Thank you,
keep
guys.
reading Vanish. Thanks, everyone.
See you later.